get started. I'm with Ron and Angie here. We've got Angie in the middle.
Hi.
Like a rose between two thorns,
Yeah.
right? That's the way you put that. Ron's over here in uniform. I'm in uniform, which is jeans and Nikes, but he's not. So I'm fully dressed. We're recording this for the other students, and a few more will pop on as we go. It's the way it usually works, and then watches pieces of it as it records. But it's a little different. I don't think I've had interviewed with two people before. It's usually been one. So, Angie, just start a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. I am Angie, Ron's wife. I work here at the juvenile office in the evenings. I do the nightly detention alt. So I actually make contact with the juveniles that has been on a program that would keep them from going to a lockdown facility. So we make contact with them night and day. So there's a day and a night. So I do that part-time. And then I also work with the school system. So.
And I've run into you at the school system when I'm there with my grandson. So you keep an eye on him. He needs watched really close. So, Ron, your role here?
I'm a state trooper with the Highway Patrol here in Missouri. I've been working 18 years. Prior to that, I worked at K County Sheriff's Office for 6.5. I've always just worked in law enforcement. I love what I do.
And I've run into Ron before back in the days with the county sheriff, but even more so when I first started here in Cape Girardeau County, I worked with his father. His father was one of the most well-known patrolmen for our juvenile office. He was our go-to guy here, and I remember him interviewing a lot of children, juveniles in custody, bringing kids in for various things. And those were days before there were school resource officers. So it was usually something pretty important when he brought a kid into the detention center at that time. So I've worked with Ron and his dad, Carl, for a lot of years, and have extreme respect for Carl. I always saw good things from him, and ask him for advice over the years when we work cases. And so it's kind of neat to be here doing this. Did your dad's law enforcement career not teach you anything?
I tried not to do it.
What did he say?
Basically, you want to do something different. Just basically the hours.
Yeah, mainly the hours.
Holidays, missing ball games and stuff like that.
But you still watched them, and that was something you were really interested in, apparently.
Well, after I got done playing sports, I personally think I was smart enough to do anything else. So that's just my own opinion.
Well, yeah, okay. We'll let that rest. So, Angie, what about your family? Any law enforcement background?
Actually, yes. My father was in the military, and then my oldest brother has been in law enforcement for past about 30 years. He just recently retired. And then when I was, I guess about 5 years ago or so, I was actually in law enforcement for about 12 years. I worked the road. So I understand his point of view and the things that he's gone through. So I really do try to respect and understand his challenges and, lack of better words, trying to not always be the nagging wife of understanding when he's had a tough night or a tough day or something else is going on with him, that it doesn't always stop when he comes in the door. It's sometimes 2 or 3 hours afterwards, and sometimes 2 or 3 days afterwards. He just worked the case that he was supposed to be off, and he worked on it for several days straight, and it was a pretty major incident. So he's never not on call, I guess. So.
Well, with the intro to criminal justice class, I send them out to interview criminal justice employees. And we hear that a lot, that it's a family business. That they're brothers, uncles, fathers, usually parents are involved in either law enforcement or attorneys. They've been involved with the criminal justice system as a family unit for years, going back. So that's not unusual to hear that piece. In the what kind of differences, or I know the answer to this, but the students wouldn't. What, as a county employee, what pushed you into the highway patrol?
Well, I started off in jail. We worked in the sheriff's office in the jail. I was there for about a year. That's where I really learned how to more interact with people. I won't say necessarily in a good way, but that's how you learn to talk to people, how they really. And I'm talking about the bad spectrum of people, obviously, on the outside. But that's where I learned how to talk to people. And I went to the road. Of course, then you're talking to general people out in public as far as complaints and reports you got to take. So you got to talk to them obviously differently. But I always wanted to be a trooper. Back when I was younger, I always thought they were going to call it the best law enforcement agency in Missouri. I know originally my dad tried years ago, didn't make it. So in the back of my mind, he always, when I first started, always pushed me to do that too.
Yeah. Well, and that is true in Missouri. I mean, it is the go-to law enforcement agency. It's always the one that commands the most respect. They come in when there's other things going on, and even like, hopefully you can tell us a little bit about in the investigations that have to do with other departments or other state agencies. It's the Missouri Highway Patrol that handles those investigations, right? Or some of them.
Well, you're the only crimes other like internal things that go on with other departments. Yes.
Yeah.
We got our own division of drug and crime control, which are our own detectives. They'll know a road guy like myself normally would be involved with that unless we're assisting, but our own detectives do most of those cases.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's some serious case from out of state, our guys, of course, in the detective unit will get with their guys and they'll work together and try and get it solved. Normally a road trooper won't be involved with that, but sometimes, like the major case Floyd and Kate, for all the shootings around here, we're on that locally.
Involved
as far as anything else, I don't do anything other than work the roads.
We have something called the Major Case Squad that's in this circuit that everybody gets called in when there's a fatality that looks like needs more law enforcement to gather evidence and interview people than what that department can handle. Correct. Okay. That was set up
30, 35 was normally
30, 35
local departments here in Kate and Boulder County.
You're involved in that too?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, those are major investigations.
Yes.
Yeah. The only different feature I've seen in those investigations over the years, because I've watched them since the 80s take place, is now all the use of the cameras. Sure. So the road cameras, when you read the affidavits or search warrants, there's a lot of information in there that reflect where cameras were at intersections. I don't know if people realize how much those things are used.
In City Kate, they are quite regularly.
Yeah, in fairly decent sized cities, in those affidavits for search, they talk about they saw this car go through this intersection at this time, close to when the crime occurred. Correct. And so they really refer to those. You see those used a lot. So I think that's interesting. Any other changes over the years you've seen? And
the only change as far as being law enforcement, use of people on their phones and cameras. Of course, obviously, all of our cars are equipped with in-car cameras, and we got audio mics we got to wear.
So you got,
that's more safety for us.
Right.
Somebody's letting we did something we shouldn't have done.
You point to something I can't even see. So
the actual body mic is right here. But
okay.
The speaker.
You've got a little speaker on a belt buckle on your.
Just so you can hear me.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I speak softer, so I got mine up a little closer. Some of them can wear it down here, but
so that
I tend to speak more soft. Yes. When I got it on.
Okay.
Now, anytime our red and blue lights come on, or we stop somebody, it comes on automatic.
You're recording automatic.
You ain't got no choice. If
okay.
not, we'll be violating our policies that we got,
Mhm.
and we don't need to be in trouble.
No, you don't need to be in trouble.
So,
Uh,
no, but of course, these days, being out there like we're at scenes, of course, we're instinctively taught now. Everybody's got a camera, everybody's got a recorder.
mhm.
I mean, you shouldn't be doing anything they shouldn't be doing anyway, but they instill us now in training. Every training session we go to, pretty much, remember, you got cameras on you all the time.
Yeah. It's seen, when you say it's seen, that's if you stop someone, but also helping motorists and traffic accidents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our main deals with are traffic investigations as far as crashes and DWI arrests is what we mainly concentrate on.
Three of my guys, three of the deputy juvenile officers were on their way back from training last month in St. Louis. And they got them down to about Festus, which is where the big bluffs are on either side of the road. And they got there just as soon as this accident happened. And it was a rollover and a crash into one of those bluffs. And they were right there at the scene when it occurred. They were involved in trying to. There was a nurse there, EMT and an emergency nurse that just happened to be driving by, and the truck was on top of this little girl's neck, and she was bleeding out. And so they were trying to hold it a little bit so that EMT could get in there to try to stop the bleeding, which they couldn't do. And so they're holding the vehicle a little bit, and they were a basket case. When they got back, their clothes had gasoline and blood on it.
Sure.
Not, just from being that close. It's not like they were involved with it, but they were against the car and close enough that somehow the splash or spurt or whatever. But I won't say they had any days off, but that next day, they turned in their clothes, got them new clothes. They wanted to talk about it. You could tell they were really impacted. And it gave me a little bit of the sense of like, that's something you guys do probably every week.
Quite often, but of course, it still affects us when it's a kid involved or a child. That's usually the worst, but I mean, you try not to be, I don't know what the word is, not that we don't care, but my job is there to make sure the scene's safe, get people that need help.
Yeah. When you're on the scene.
But if you ain't a child anytime alive, if they die, that still affects us no matter what.
No. Well, yeah, that's what they were saying. Is the girl was in college. As far as these guys, they have children in college, so you make that connection. So
That's what I found when I worked the road. That was the biggest struggle for me. I would relate to my nephews if it was, something at that age, or would, connect, and you do that and don't even realize you do it.
yeah, even with the connecting with the kids' age, is really tough. Being the supervisor in this office years ago when they first started it, there was a law change that made an infant mortality panel. I think it was called fatality review team. That's what it was called. And any death of any infant, stillborn, or any kid that was a non-accidental death up until a certain age, they called this team, the coroner, juvenile officer, law enforcement that worked in, local physician. And I did that team for almost 10 years, but it got to the point where you were looking at autopsy photos and the scene, and I just couldn't do it anymore. There was like a thing that happened. I don't know if it was one particular case, but it was like, that is enough. And had to refer it out. So Angie Ussery's doing it now in this office. Wayman did it for a long time. I think he had the same burnout that I did. So Angie's been doing it the last couple of years. But yeah, you do make that. You don't think of it, but you make that connection with family. So it makes it hard. So on the scene, you've got that under control and everything goes. How about after you get home? What happens? You able to figure out a way to? What's your method to shake it?
Really, I try not to bring a whole lot of it home. But when I come home, no, it's just me. I really don't normally like to talk about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know sometimes when I get around my dad, of course, just because he's been so many years before he retired, he wants to talk about it. I honestly sometimes get irritated because I don't like talking about it when I'm not working.
Mm-hmm.
I try to get out of your mind. Of course, it's still there, but I'd rather not talk about it. Now, if it's something serious, I'll talk to her about it. Probably to tell her what's going on. But most of the time, I try not to involve her as far as I don't want her to know some of the stuff I've seen. But of course, I know she's seen it before, but I don't want to burden her with that.
I think he really doesn't. I mean, he does not. I don't know what you do from the 8 hours that you're the shift. I don't know the people he's had contact with. I don't ask. Not that I don't care. It's just I know. Yeah. So you could tell me the people's name, and I guess because I did it for so long, stuff that I don't know if jaded is the good word for it, but I think you learn to either you handle it one way or the other in order to go back to the job every day. So like at our house, we never had the scanner on. When he's at work, I never have the scanner on. We don't even, the scanner he has, we don't even have a scanner. So
my dad still does. And
he does?
Yes.
I tried it for a little. You know, we used to have a lot of walkie-talkies around, and I took one home one time, and it was about 2 days was all I could. That was enough. It was like every time that thing crackled, I was.
And he listens 24/7.
He wants to know.
He wants to know.
He still says it's his guys out there. So.
Wow.
I mean, I get irritated every once in a while with him, but I'm not just turn it down because he turn it down. When I'm there, I'm here to visit with you.
Okay.
But I don't personally talk about a whole lot of now. There's something serious.
No.
Or something I need to talk about. I'll talk to her. She'll listen. But luckily, in my case, there hasn't been a whole lot of serious stuff. Yeah. It's that bad. I need to talk to her.
That's good. Well, yeah.
Those happened wherever he met her years ago. So.
And I think too, when he comes home, it's a lot of times we don't even see each other. So if he comes home at 3 o'clock in the morning, I have to get up and go to work in the morning. So it's go to bed. It might be later that afternoon that I even speak to him. So by then I've already started my day, or something else has happened in between for him, and it's not sometimes we don't even have an opportunity to speak, I guess, for
schedules
a couple days.
Are
it's
so different.
It's so different. When he's on days at 6 o'clock in the morning, that might be his on time, but he's the call out car at 3. So if there's a wreck after 3 o'clock, he gets called. So, which is sometimes tough, especially through the week when I've got to go to work and get up at early in the morning. So that's a hard thing, because I'm a person that has trouble sleeping, and that's it's not a lack of communication. We just don't have that opportunity to really see each other a lot of times.
Well, I hate to drop this on you, but as you get older, it's even harder to sleep.
Oh yeah. And he's starting to feel the effect of it. You and I've had this conversation. I can see, and he will admit it, I think, in the last year or two, midnights don't look as fun as they used to. Like you enjoyed them.
10 years.
Yeah. So
there's only one enjoyment for midnights that I found over the years when I worked on the river. There was less supervision. Right? I mean, there was less administrators. The desk, the office wasn't there. I mean, you had your team, you had your supervisors, people to call. Yeah, it's a different life on midnights.
It's a different life. I mean,
yeah.
You eat. I mean, you either don't eat because nothing's open, or you're eating out of a grab bag, or whatever's in a convenience store.
So what is the schedule of days and midnights and evening? How's all that work for you?
We used to on midnights or weekends. My night shift consisted of 4 to 12. I normally work the 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift because that's just a shift I prefer to work. Now, we used to about a year ago, we worked 10 to 6 on just Friday and Saturday night on evenings. During the week, like I said, after 3 a.m., when their 3 o'clock car goes home, they're called out. If it's a lot of times around here, Cape County, Scott County, Warren County, if it's they got deputies on 24/7. If it's the right set of guys, unless it's something where drunk's involved or an injury, for the injury crash, we got to investigate. They will get the information, wait till 6, and then we'll just go get it from there at 6. Mm-hmm. If it's something serious, they'll call us out. Day shift consists of, I'm usually the early car at 6 a.m. We usually got 7, 8, or 9. We've got 5 in our zone right now. We're too short right now. But on we got 7, we'll have kind of staggers. Like me, I'd rather work at 6 to 2 during the day. You get off and I got time to do stuff, especially in the winter time. It's dark at 5 o'clock. Right. A lot of our guys don't like working early. They'd rather work at 8 and 9 to 5. That's fine. Yeah. We got a couple guys like work at 6 with me. And then other guys just kind of work where they want to work. And when you got 7, you got enough people, you can kind of make it flexible.
How large a territory do you have?
We got all of Cape Girardeau County, all of Warren County, and Scott County. We kind of got Warren, Benton North, the northern half. Okay. And then the Saxon car takes the south half. Okay.
Pretty big stretch.
You list one call one end to the other normally. It just seems that way.
And Angie, your zone is mainly Cape Girardeau County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And normally it's very far in between that we not have kids where we don't make contact with at night. So it's like either real busy or you might have a slow night, but then normally you pay for it the next week. So
yeah, they keep coming in, so we keep business going.
Yeah, right? Business is normally good.
I've had over the years a couple situations where the Missouri Highway Patrol will have, they'll still stop a car and there'll be a wanted or warrant for a juvenile or a missing persons report for a juvenile, but it's really rare that you actually do a juvenile arrest. Is that right?
Yeah, we're more traffic related unless they're driving. Now, of course, we ain't got no choice, like they're drunk and driving us. Well, that's going to be an arrest for either the juvenile or not. But normally, a lot of times, if it's just minor stuff, we'll just probably refer them to juvenile. Now, if it's something stolen bill or something like that, something more serious, obviously, we'd call and talk to the juvenile officer on the phone, see what's the best way they want to handle it. But we don't really deal with juveniles a whole lot. Usually, they're just driving without a license or something. They're 16 or just below. And normally, if they're close enough to the town where they live, probably be easy for us to just call their parents. Yeah, let them come get them. If not, we really only got a couple guys on at a time, so I don't really have time to bring them all over here. Right. Unless we're slow, and that's fine. But if I got something else pending, I can't do that.
Yeah, release to parents is what we see. Sure. And that's fine for, like you said, for most of them. Sure. If it's not something that they have to go to the hospital for, or we have a warrant on a kid. How about juveniles or undocumented people with, is there ever you check papers and you have undocumented children, try to figure that one out in the middle of the night?
I've never had no children. I've had adults who have to do all the time.
How's that? What's that happen?
One example was probably about 8 months ago. One Mexican male who lives here in Cape and has been here forever. Left us in a couple crashes, and we found him. Of course, he said he don't speak English, but had no papers or nothing. They talked to his wife or girlfriend, I don't know which one. They said, no, he's been here 10 years, he understands English. One of them deals. So took him in, you got to get ICE on the phone, and they they talked to him. They say he's not documented, but they'll just put a hold on him. And see, he never even went to court on his charges, but they already deported him back to where he's from.
Really? See, it's exactly the opposite with
They
juveniles.
want to have him charged with something first before they'll come get him, but I guess it was last year they changed it now. If you just got them undocumented, you call, they just put a hold on, they'll tell you to release them.
I haven't had any juveniles in the last year, but in years past, I mean, we've had some serious rape cases with some. The last one I can think of was with a kid from Honduras that was 16. And he tied this little boy up in the basement of a house and really abused him. And when we called ICE, they said, no, you deal with it. We're not going to deal with it.
Well, that's what they did years ago.
It's the way it worked, right?
They didn't come get nobody. It was something serious.
Well, we'll see what happens the next time I have one then. We'll see how that works. Damien, go ahead and ask any questions you need. You can post them on chat. If you have something to ask, you can go ahead. With fewer live students in here, other than just one, it's going pretty quick because normally they're throwing questions out. So it's shortened up a little bit. He's back. So you're a grant employee. We talked about this a little bit before it started. I'm under one retirement system called Mosier's. You were under loggers with county sheriffs for all those years. So you have years saved as a loggers employee. Vested, correct word. Right. And Ron, yours is even different than Mosier's, right?
Ours is, but don't give me that, tell you the name, so I can't remember.
I'm gonna be looking it up because I thought it was Mosier's, but I'm gonna be going online and
It
checking.
is now about
It's a little different. It was loggers.
Now the sheriff's office.
Now, did your loggers get picked up with the Mosier's? Can you combine?
Is that where the buy, where you actually have to buy it?
At the time, I did.
Right.
Back when I was younger.
Right.
In my 20s.
Yeah.
But you can now, but now it's
real high.
ridiculous high.
Yeah.
Buy exact that price. But
well, it's very complicated for my students that watch this later on. The retirement process. I've attended 2 different retirement meetings. Think I have a pretty good understanding of it, but then when Pam Lucy retired in our office, she had some little things and tricks. It's like nobody told me that. You know that when you retire, if you have all this sick leave built up, that you can take that sick leave to pay for your insurance for at least a year. For a year after you retire. So for a year, you can use your sick leave time to buy, pay for your deductible or your insurance
to get you through
your insurance costs. So it's like nobody's told us that. So I mean, there's all these tricks and stuff that have to be learned. You think you're working and learning the job the first decade, and then the rest of the time spent trying to figure out how to retire.
So, but with him, we were actually kind of speaking about this. He has a mandatory retirement at 60, which cities and counties that I know of, I'm not saying they're not out there in Missouri, but don't have that luxury. So at him at 60, but up until like your 5 years before your retirement, you actually start going to finance classes. They explain it to you.
Well, we got ODOT's retirement system.
Yeah.
Before they don't let you go if you're within your 5 years of when you're eligible to retire. Now this last 6 months they've opened it up because I'd rather plan ahead. I mean, 5 years ain't enough time. To have all your financial stuff taken care of before you retire.
That's true.
That's been a complaint. I think they finally realized that I'm not eligible until 2026. That's 8 years. I want to start planning now for my retirement so I ain't got to worry about then.
Right.
And I think they finally realized they're trying to change that because got a few emails here in the last session. They do it once a year all across the state. I think they got 5 different places they go to. And you just go in there and they go through all the steps of what's best for you individually. True. I hate to say it, I'm not worried about somebody else.
Right.
I want to know what's going to be taken care of when I retire.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing. It's not something they tell you in college or when you first come out and start these jobs. And then it's even different. You know, when I first started, the retirement was different than what it is now. I thought I had planned for lots of years that I'd have my years in. The insurance cost was so low. It was like $45 a month. And I thought 52. I'm out of here at 52. Well, here we are 10 years later, and I still sit here. So it's it changed. They changed up on me. So you never know how this is going to go. But I recommend to everybody to keep looking out there for other things, other jobs, how your hobbies can make you money. If you like to refurbish tractors, do it while you're working so it can be a retirement income. You gotta plan ahead. Because it don't last forever. So and as I look at these, I taught a class at SEMO this week, and it was the first time I've been on campus for years, at least for 3 years. And I was looking at these 20 students, and it's like, if I stop and just stare at you once in a while, it's because I haven't seen a live student in quite a few years. It's interesting to see what you look like, because I've been online now for so long. But they look awful young, is what I'm saying, and it's hard to explain to them. It's like, yeah, we were young once on this job too. We know how that looks, and time flies as you're working these cases.
That's what happens. Time flies, and you don't realize, I might try this, and I might not like it. And it's like, well, I'm already stuck here for 10 years. What else am I going to do? I've already invested 10 years in this, and now I've got somewhat of retirement. And, I'm now 40 something. What am I going to do? Now I'm 50, and you just, law enforcement seems like you just kind of get in there and you somehow have some kind of attachment somehow and stay in it.
Well, friends, family, you have all your people are in the career. It's one reason you stay. People here that I work with, I attended some of their marriages. I've been to their children's baptisms. I've been to their parents' funerals. I've watched some of them retire. Time keeps going, and you hit these different milestones with them, and here you are, and you're still here. But definitely these outside hobbies are helpful. And I look at my teaching as a hobby. I read about criminal justice when I'm off work. I have news services on my phone and computer that I read new cases that come in juvenile justice. Any little switch up in the law or new director with the federal agency that kind of oversees our grants. I'm always interested in who they are and how they're thinking. It's kind of my hobby. So since I don't deer hunt anymore.
So like with Ron though, his supervisors change from year to year. So his actual boss is the governor. So where a deputy is the sheriff and police is the police chief. So his goes way up the chain.
And the highway patrol also are the governor's kind of bodyguards or transporters, right?
The governor's security, yes.
The governor's security. I think that's real important.
They're always with them.
They're always with them. So that again states to the elite of the Missouri Highway Patrol. And I have yet to check. I do want to, once I retire, to spend more time understanding Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, to see if those systems are kind of the same. Because I'm not sure. They probably are. Yeah, they probably are. But that is interesting, the way that works, if they are the governor's security.
I think they're more ran like a military. I mean, they have, like his lieutenant might be in, Poplar Bluff, or, it's not like a city or a sheriff's department where everybody works two shifts and you're here and you're here. So I know, like,
My boss sits around at 45.
yes. So he,
Now, all the tenants,
and so we've had this discussion. The reason why he went with the highway patrol is because of the money and the opportunity, and it was a totally different dynamic than what the sheriff's department is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he doesn't necessarily answer to dog calls like he did when he was on the sheriff's department. So it is like a totally different.
Yeah, when you say it's like the military, that is how a lot of criminal justice agencies are set up. You know, they do follow a chain of command. They are set up as military agencies, whereas the court systems are not. They're usually working more so under a judge. Now, Missouri is in flux right now. They're trying to move it more toward control by a state agency called Office of State Court Administrator's Office. But they've been trying for 10 years without much success. The judges still can walk in here, a judge could walk in here today and say, Randy, I really need you to do it this way, or I don't want to see any of these kind of cases anymore. Well, you know what I'm going to say? I'm not going to say, well, I'm sorry, Judge, I work for the state courts now. I'm going to say, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, yes, Judge. I'm going to follow that chain of command. But if you ask Office of State Court Administrator's Office, they'll tell you policies and procedures. I work for them. But, you know, it's just still trying to figure it out how that works. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
Very confusing.
He has many bosses.
Yeah. Any questions that you thought maybe was going to be asked that I haven't asked yet, or anything? How about this? How about I hear from students a lot, and even people out in public, things are worse now than what they've ever been before. Do you hear that too? And do you see any real evidence of that, or is it just things are different now than what they were before?
Well, me personally, I think they're more serious now with all the school shootings, all the shootings like in Cape Girardeau. I'm from Cape originally, so I lived here all my life. All the shootings now, it seems like mostly drug related. School shootings, I have no answer for that. That I never would have thought back when I first got in this, we had all these school shootings. Obviously, I started back in '94. That wasn't even thought of back then, but I think it's just going to get worse with all the shootings.
The school shootings have changed a lot of the laws and a lot of the policy.
Correct.
You know, both for my world, courts world, and you know the way the schools move kids through the system. Angie sees that when we have a kid that brings a gun to school, or says they're going to bring a gun to school, or says they're going to bring a bomb to school. I mean, whatever. She's the one that ends up checking on them at home after the judge lets them out of detention. So, you know, and then that happens. The judge will see both parents or hear from both parents, and we can supervise this kid, and the judge will say, yeah, but under detention alternative. We're checking on them randomly. So yeah, that has been a big change, and the shootings in Cape, I've watched that over the last few years, not only increase, but increase and not get solved.
Right.
You know, the old shootings in Cape were always, you pretty much knew immediately who did it. You know, and we even had a couple within a block of our detention center down on the river that, you know, you knew in hours who did it. You know, it happened, and you had to shut down and bring extra employees in detention to kind of keep things under control there, because kids knew what was going on, and then everything had died down because it was solved. But a lot of them in the last couple of years.
A lot of it's manpower too. Like, you know, like you said earlier, he works the major case squad, so when he's on that takes him off the road. So that's a special detail for him. That's considered, he's had to work and had to be appointed to that. So a lot of times, it's like you said, when the major case squad is activated, he might have was supposed to work the road that day, and then he's, on that. So a lot of it, I think, is just across the United States. It's just a lack of funding, lack of numbers, and I mean, you see it in the job every day. So, you have officers that should only be working 50 cases, but they're having to work 150 because you don't have the funding to put that other officer there. So, that's the flip side with them as well. They, like I said, they're too short right now in his zone. So him getting to take off is sometimes next to impossible. Because he has to work because they have to have so many working that night.
What's your biggest, since you've been working with the Highway Patrol, what's been your biggest span of days off?
Took vacation or just?
Let's just say vacation.
Oh, I'll probably take off 7, 10 days.
So you had 7 days, 10 days off?
That's if we were going out of town somewhere.
Sure.
That,
usually we work 5 days on, 2 off. Sometimes.
Okay.
However it runs through the week, you want off. If you need certain days, you get 2 days off per week. We still do 8-hour shifts.
Okay.
So we're still doing 40 hours. We've talked about doing 10, but you got to have more people than 7. People working out at 10 with overlapping shifts. So.
Are the new ones, the new officers that's starting, are they transferring in from other criminal justice departments? Are they brand spanking new from universities or the street, or where are they coming from? Your new Highway Patrol officers.
Well, they all got to go to our academy 6 months.
6 months. Okay.
So they all got to go there for 6 months.
Okay.
Now you normally get to come home on the weekends after the first couple of weeks, but a lot of guys that rather than not having prior law enforcement just for mindset, they're not already set in their ways of doing things.
Yeah.
But me personally, find out if somebody who's already been in law enforcement, my opinion, they stick around longer. A newer guy who doesn't really know what they're getting into. Because the training, I mean, it's all, you don't really learn anything until you get out, start working the road yourself.
Right.
I mean, that's how you really learn how to talk to people, what's really going to happen. They know set scenarios, something different every day.
Yeah.
Which, that's one of the reasons I like this job. Really something different happens every day.
It's like my job too. It's like every day is different. Yeah. So, so you think they stay longer when they've had prior law enforcement?
Me personally, yes.
Yeah.
Unless it's somebody young who really wants to do this, they won't quit. But we've got a lot of guys who've been out after 6 months of training, 6 months straight, get out a couple months, but this ain't what I thought it'd be, and they quit. I don't understand that.
Oh, that's rough. And I've had that a few times with juvenile officers, and even we don't have 6 months of training. We start them out pretty fast. I mean, it might take 6 months to a year till they're turned loose completely with court documents and doing the different scenarios we do. But it's expensive to train somebody, especially 6 months in an academy.
You got to sign a contract that's very.
Oh, really?
And if you quit within 3 years, you got to pay back.
Oh,
yes.
Oh boy.
So that's another incentive not to quit.
Yeah.
You got some guys who do it.
Oh boy. Well, yeah, it's hard on administration to lose somebody like that because they've spent so much time pulling it together. Well, Damien, do you have any questions for us? Let me see if, here we go. He's heard there's a big difference in the dynamic of local, state, and federal law enforcement officers. Is there any ways you could elaborate on what exactly is the difference between a job at the sheriff's department versus a highway patrol?
Well, when I work at the sheriff's office, you got to take more calls. Their main, I guess, function is serving papers through the court. But you got to take like burglary and theft calls, animal cruelty calls, domestic disputes. They're really not traffic oriented. Like some sheriff's office will let you stop cars. Some of them don't really want you stopping cars. But their main deal is serving papers for the court, like summonses or criminal summonses to court, arrest warrants for people who are wanted. I know Cape County, my own experience, really didn't want you stopping too many cars. I mean, you obviously could, or if there's something serious, yes, but they'd rather you make sure places ain't getting broke into. Like I said, all the dog bite calls, all the non-violent calls, whatever, I don't know how you want to word it, but as far as when I go on patrol, it's more traffic related stuff. Like I say, crashes, that's our main thing we investigate. Impaired drivers at night. It just seems like they're easier to find at night than daytime. They're out there daytime, but they're easier to find, seems like, at night. Just more tickets. I don't have a bunch of other calls. I've got a few responsibilities, but my main responsibility is working crashes and making the roads safe.
What percentage of your time spent when you're out there on the interstate is compared to other highways?
Well, me personally, I don't work the interstate much because with the laws as far as people failing to yield, not getting over for law enforcement or tow trucks. Me, my personal opinion, I don't want to get struck. I don't want to be killed. I mean, that's just common sense, but I mainly work the back roads, like the letter roads, back roads.
Okay.
Me personally, but we got some guys who want to work the interstate.
Huh.
We got plenty of game. Usually each trooper in my zone, we kind of got our own things what we like to do.
Mm-hmm.
We got guys who just want to write tickets. We got other guys who want to do some criminal stuff. Me personally, I like just drunk drivers, but I like to do the criminal part too, like the Major Case Squad, to do a little bit different work instead of doing the road duty all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. My guess, if it was on the test, it'd be 75% you had to be on the interstate, on Highway 55.
A lot of people think that.
Huh.
But we got some city departments, if there's a tally on the interstate, they just automatically think it's ours. You don't work it in the city unless it's something extraordinary. They request us to work it.
Interesting. Well, I hope that answered that question. I think that's taught me something there. I was, that failure to yield, that's a rough, I feel really panicky if I happen to get in a situation where, like, I'm being passed by a truck or there's too many cars in that passing lane and I'm stuck and can't get over and somebody's coming up on my back end and I can't get to the left when somebody's got an emergency vehicle stopped. That's tough, you know. That's rough.
Slow down. If they leave slow down, that's what they're supposed to do. You can't get over.
Yeah.
They don't slow down most of the time. That's why. I mean, I'll work the interstate every once in a while. I like aircraft division where we have to work it with them. But
He does do that.
Well, I've lost my religion up on Highway 270 too many times where you can't get over.
No.
Come home from a doctor's appointment with my wife and say, well, that's it. I've lost everything I've gained this month. I've cussed for an hour and a half straight.
So I hear
the highway.
It's funny though, because I hear the guys that he works with, especially when you're doing group things or whatever, the guys that come from St. Louis that have been transferred here. So this is more kind of like a, oh my gosh, like you said, the interstate, they're hammering it all the time, and they come down here, they're like, oh my gosh, what do you guys do? We've already wrote X amount of tickets up that way and here, so that's a different, like with them, the troopers transfer all over in the state of Missouri. So, I mean, they might be here or.
That is a good thing about some of the state agencies is you can transfer to different parts of the state. Yeah, whether you want to or not is the other question. But for some of the younger ones to get to transfer around is probably something they like to do. So, well, Miss Angie, any questions from you that you thought might be asked or you might?
Well, the only thing I would say is if you go into this, you really need to consider if you're going to have kids, home life, wife, husband, family. Your holidays will never be the same. A lot of times you don't get to spend holidays with both families. a lot of times he don't even get to go to my family. A lot of our family lives out of state, so with his, so we pick and choose, and sometimes it's just he might be working, even though he's working here 6 to 2. My family lives out of town, so he can't do holidays with me. So, I mean, we really have to split the holidays. It's kind of like a divorced family with kids, you know, like you might get Christmas or you might get Thanksgiving, and that's how they have to rotate their shifts. They're never off both holidays.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're off one or the other. So the one thing that is a struggle I know for me, and I know it is for him, is our family is never at one place at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's huge. I don't think you think about that when you're young, but when you start having kids and family, and then you're like, oh my gosh, when my kids have ball games tonight, or sister lives out of state, brother, you know, it's like, well, you know, we can't do Christmas this year. We might have to do it in March, or so. I mean, that's a struggle. That's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, the identity is always with you, and even on holidays, you know, for my guys here, they're still on call. So then you might be at Thanksgiving or somewhere, but that phone's there and it could go off. So you got a piece of you is still kind of not there. So it's once you're in it, you're in it. It's a little different. I'd love to have try the kind of life, I think, where you go home and you're off. Sure. I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like to feel that this last. I think I had 10 days when my wife had her hip replaced. That I left the phone off, and nobody called me from here. And I had 10 days. I hadn't had 10 days in
Years.
25 years. Nobody. I wasn't anticipating that phone call, and to have to read a petition or read something, a case request kind of thing. So it's very different.
We've got somewhere out of town where he's come to visit, and he was there 30 minutes, and Nature Case Squad got back, activated and back to where he come from.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I've always had a lot of respect for the Major Case Squad, because sometimes that's the only way things actually got finished. And a lot of the murders in the Major Case Squad cases, if they didn't get finished, you'd catch them the next time, because those people don't stop killing somebody. We've had some of the recent shootings that the word is it's like the same guy has done like 3 of them. So, and I've had that with juveniles. The first one looked like self-defense and got turned as a self-defense case, and within 2 months, they actually murdered somebody. It's like, whoa, I wonder if that first one was self-defense, because once they start popping that trigger into human bodies, they usually don't stop unless law enforcement stops them. It's not a one-time deal. So those serious ones I've worked on the side, that have been major case squads with juveniles, it's been a good thing that they were caught. So.
And I think when you go into this, you realize sometimes you lose lifelong friends that you didn't realize you were going to lose. Because it's just the nature of the business. I mean, you can always make somebody happy, and that person don't always understand that.
That's true. So. You do. Some people you knew and went to school with, or knew at one point because of what the job had to be. They don't talk to you anymore. So the ones don't bother me too much that are real blatant about it, that flip around at Walmart and go the other direction. I can see the humor in that a little bit, but it's the more subtle ones that bother me the most. But but some of those come back. I've had some recently that were parents of some kids that I had to put on probation for some things because I put other kids on probation for the same things. Yeah, I had a change of heart. Might be 15, 20 years later, but now all of a sudden when they see me, it's, hey, how you doing? But they haven't talked to me for a long time. So I don't feel like I've really changed. It was what I had to do. But, now they're kind of over it, maybe? Because we're all
And just had
grandparents?
experience to maybe realize that they were
Yeah.
just doing their job.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't hear it, but maybe. So, well, guys, I thank you for doing this tonight. It's really helpful, and I know you're still in uniform, so you haven't had a chance to go home yet. So, oh, you're
He's
working?
He
You're
just went
on?
on not too long ago.
Oh, okay.
That's why I check my phone every
Okay. Well, I hope it's a safe night for you. And Angie, you're working for a little longer.
I'm working tonight.
You're checking on kids for a little bit longer. Well, I plan on going home and petting the dog. That's my thing. My old lab. I'll go home and she'll be like, "Where have you been? What's been going on?" Her head will be on my leg. That's my evening.
Always happy to see you.
Always happy to see me. It's, yeah, always happy. So. Well, thank you very much, and I'm going to shut this down. Damien, anything else? Just thanks, and have a safe night tonight. So I appreciate you being here, Damien. Thanks for asking the question, and like I said, extra points. You know, if you get right there at 89, that's going to be an A. You know, it's going to work. All right, dude. I'm going to shut it down.